Hello, it looks like the big freeze is here to stay for at least another 4 or 5 days. In some places, today was the coldest day so far, bringing further disruption to just about everywhere. Stay with us for a county-by-county guide to how the weather is affecting your area.
Well, if you thought that it was cold last night, you were right, because it was the coldest night for 13 years for some of us. A severe weather warning has been in place for much of the day in Suffolk, Hertfordshire and Essex, but nowhere really has escaped. Schools have closed, grit supplies are being rationed and there's been severe travel disruption. Well, more than 1,400 schools were shut across the region. Worst affected was the county of Hertfordshire, where more than 800 closed. Stansted and Luton airports are now open, but there are warnings of delays and cancellations. Well, all remaining EasyJet flights tonight have been cancelled. On the trains, an emergency timetable is operating on First Capital Connect services from King's Cross to Peterborough, Cambridge and Hertford North. And there's disruption on National Express East Anglia trains between Liverpool Street, Ipswich and Norwich. The region's major roads have coped pretty well, but the minor ones have struggled. Andrew Sinclair has this report on another day being dominated by the big freeze.
We were told to expect a heavy fall of snow, and in many places they got it. In some parts of Northamptonshire, more than 4 inches fell overnight.
It's soft, it's not hard, except of course on the road where it's getting sort of caked in by the cars, and obviously it's turning to ice. But other than that, it's quite fresh, quite pleasant.
In Essex, the snow fell fast this morning, creating picture postcard scenes within minutes. 100 schools decided not to open. A further 100 closed a few hours later as the snow continued. A large number of schools in Bedfordshire, Northamptonshire and Hertfordshire were also closed. The main roads have stayed open, thanks to a round-the-clock gritting effort. But after weeks of sub-zero temperatures, the strain is beginning to show. Suffolk, Bedfordshire and Milton Keynes are now restricting where they grit because they're worried about running out.
We've managed to do all the grid roads, all the side roads and many of the estates. But now we're having to basically ration the salt down to just grid roads until we find out when we're going to get some new salt deliveries.
It's been another difficult day for air travellers. Both Luton and Stansted had to close on several occasions, forcing the low-cost airlines to cancel many of their flights.
Lots of customers are being disrupted because of the snow closure, but we're doing everything we can to assist passengers. However, if your flight has been cancelled, you can go onto our website and change for an alternative day, and then you can do that free of charge.
And lorries were forced to stack on the A14 after the port of Felixstowe was closed because it was too dangerous to operate. Many parts of the region experienced heavy but short-lived snow blizzards. Here in Norwich there was a virtual whiteout at one stage, only for it all to clear half an hour later. And from the pictures you've been sending us, it's clear that in every part of the region, the winter of 2010 will be remembered for some time to come. Everyone's felt the cold, and this has been officially the coldest place in the region so far. At RAF Marham last night, the temperature fell to -10.
I don't know if we're going to beat the all-time record, which was -15 back in a really cold spell that many people might remember back in January '87. I think the temperatures, if anything, are going to be very much on the low side. We don't have an end in sight yet for these really cold temperatures.
Which means the snow and ice is likely to be around for some time to come. Good news for many, but a growing headache for those who are trying to keep things moving. Andrew Sinclair, BBC Look East.
Well, Julie's here now. Which areas have been worst hit today, Jules?
Well, Jonathan, I thought I'd start by showing you the radar sequence from midday today. You can see this band of snow that moved down, mainly affecting the south and southeast of our region, producing around 10 centimetres, 4 inches of snow in places. Now, tonight, I think we'll have a break in the snowfall, but the problem is going to be the temperature. Again, a very cold night, anything between freezing and -6. So ice is going to be a real problem overnight and tomorrow too. And, of course, we're going to have further snow showers tomorrow falling onto that frozen ground. I'll be back later with the full forecast. Jonathan.
Thank you, Jules.
The relatives of a Suffolk soldier who was killed in Afghanistan have described calls for an anti-war demo in Wootton, Bassett as an insult to his memory. Extremist elements of a group called Islam for UK have called for the protest to register their anger at rising civilian casualties.
There's been another 100 join up in the past hour.
And that's on top of the 6,000 who've already expressed support on the Facebook website for the Families of the Fallen campaign. Set up just 2 days ago by Alan and Lorraine McClure, it has just one aim: to stop the proposed anti-war march. The McClures say that Wootton Bassett is a sacred place for them. Lorraine's son, one of the first to have his coffin borne through the Wiltshire town. Islam for UK says it wants to parade empty coffins here to draw attention to Afghan war casualties.
With carrying coffins, empty coffins down the streets of Wootton Bassett, I mean, you know, it's disgusting. It's a disgrace. It is making a mockery of our fallen, all of them, for what they've sacrificed for our country.
Aaron McClure from Ipswich was killed by so-called friendly fire 3 years ago. He's one of 11 Royal Anglians to have been killed in Afghanistan. This is the man behind the proposed march, Anjem Chowdhury. Senior police officers say while many may not like his right to march, he is within the law.
We are sick of these people. We are sick of being politically correct. We are sick of them telling us what we can and can't do. You know, we are the British people. We are the ones that have lost family and loved ones.
Going to Wootton Bassett and the manner which is being proposed is a deliberate, provocative act. It should not be allowed, but it's all designed, quite bluntly, to stir up hatred.
One Muslim leader in Luton is calling on others to support the families and to disassociate themselves from the march.
We're actually calling for Muslims to go to Wootton Bassett if they have a march, to oppose them, to show the British public that the vast majority of Muslims in the UK want to have nothing to do with this organisation.
Lorraine still honours her son's memory. If the police do allow Islam for UK to demonstrate, the McClure family say they'll be in Wootton Bassett to square up to the marchers. Alex Dunlop, BBC Look East, Ipswich.
Meanwhile, the defence are moving to have the trial of 7 men accused of disrupting the Royal Anglian homecoming parade in Luton stopped. They're claiming it's an abuse of process.
The briefest moment caught off guard as the 7 defendants threw snowballs at each other as they left court early because of the weather. Their defence are claiming that this trial is an abuse of process and that the demonstration was lawful. The illegality of the war is supported by the weight of legal academic argument, they claimed. Soldiers had sadly been tried in military courts for rape and murder, that they would therefore go to hell, which was, in the defendants' view, a religious certainty. What was written on the placards was repeated in the chanting, and at no time were they asked to stop. Today, the senior investigating officer was accused of wanting to bring a conviction at any cost. The defence point to the fact that nothing was done to stop the protesters on the day. Then it was almost 6 months before any charges were brought. Then they used the CPS complex case unit, even though it was only a minor public order offence. This, the defence suggests, was evidence of political pressure being brought to bear on Bedfordshire Police Force, a claim that was strenuously denied in court. The judge intends to make a decision tomorrow, weather permitting, but there's a definite optimism amongst the defendants. Nikki Jenkins, BBC Look East, Luton.
In a moment, a county-by-county look at the weather news where